guys, so today's video I will be talking to you about my top 10 4-star rated books written by African authors. So we're gonna go onto the continent of Africa and discover together, not really discover, but revisit the books that marked me, that stayed with me, that just put a smile on me, together. So come with. Alright, Jambo, Karibu, welcome to my channel. My name is Chilanda and this is Library Without Borders. So, as I mentioned earlier in my video, this video will be about my 10 favorite books of 2023 that were written by African authors that I discovered. Most of them I discovered them through doing all these book reviews throughout 2023. So before we even get into all of that good stuff, I simply want to say Happy New Year, everyone. Oh my God, we're like in 2024. Who would have thunk it? You know what I mean? Whew. Second of all, I also want to say the following. 2023 started great. I have a lot of things to be grateful for, to be thankful for, and a lot of things, but the way it ended, I have to say that life was lifing, okay, if you understand what I mean. Like, we went through a lot of things, my family and I, but still we remain grateful because we're alive, we're healthy, and most of our friends and family members are still there. And I have all of you guys. I reached 500 and plus. I think I'm at 520 subscribers. I want to say thank you guys. Like, when I started this journey literally in January of last year, I knew this was something that I felt a calling for, and I was partly doing it for me, but I wanted to speak about my love of books to an audience, and I didn't know what to expect. I've learned a lot of things throughout my journey with you guys, with Booktube, and I hope that this new year I will bring you more content. But I just want to say again, thank you to all you guys who find my content interesting enough to be subscribed to my channel and to share it, to like, to for your comments. I want to say thank you for all the booktubers who have walked with me from the beginning till now. Tangible Reads, Morea's Moods, Babe in Library, Koji Comfy Up, The Story and Over, to all my subscribers, like all of you guys. Just because I didn't mention all the other booktubers does not mean I don't consider you. I consider you a lot. Alright, you guys, I don't want to make this video long because we have about 10 books to go through. So, oh, by the way, y'all see my African outfit. It's actually a dress, and I believe my mom got me this a while ago, and we call these les boubous. They're those African dress, but we call them les boubous. So I thought it'd be appropriate, to talk about my African authors and all these books dressed accordingly. Babe, drum rolls. Alright, at number 10 on this countdown of African authors, we have, it's not a fiction book actually, this is an autobiography, and it is by Trevor Noah, right? Trevor Noah, remember? Now, most of these books, I am not talking about them thoroughly because I have reviewed them throughout the year, right? So number 10, as I said, is Trevor Noah, his autobiography that speaks about his life. And I enjoyed it a lot simply because he put a comedic, a humorous tone to describing the hardship that he actually went through in South Africa. As you know, Trevor Noah is born mixed, his mom was black, South African, I think from the Xhosa tribe, and his dad, I think he's Irish, but he's white. If not Dutch, Irish, but he's white. And he speaks about growing up in South Africa during apartheid and having to go through all those hard things with his mom and living in the slums of South Africa, the friends, the different groups that were there. There were a lot of Indians, blacks, Europeans, and Africans, and living under poverty, high crimes, and his mom actually being shot, like all of that. And as I said, I already spoke about Trevor Noah's autobiography in one of my reviews. I think it was either in June or July. You can go check it out, but it was really funny. I remember, I think I even mentioned that in that video. It was the part where he was talking about shitting, because I actually listened to it. So it was funny to listen to his own voice talk about these moments. And when he was like, he had his grandmother, I think, that was blind, and he had to go to the toilet, but he didn't want to go to the outhouse, so he had to do it in the kitchen using a paper. And oh my god, that story just stayed with me. But among that, he talked about his friends and doing DJ and like burning CDs and stuff like that. So if you guys haven't read his book or listened to it, I recommend listening to it. Please do so. That was, at number 10, Trevor Noah, Born a Crime. At number 9, we have Children of Blood and Bone. Now, I already have a review on this book as well, and it is by Tomi Adeyemi, and this is a YA book, and it's obviously a fantasy book. Essentially, it's the story of Zeli, Inan, and Amari. I think I remember because it had my son's name in it. So Zeli is the main character, and she's part of this clan of Magi people. They have white hair, blue eyes, but they're dark skin, like they're black, they're African. They live in this place called Orisha. And what happened is essentially that her clan, her people were exterminated, but not all of them, but most of them were exterminated because the other clan wanted to eradicate magic. But now Zeli finds out that there's a way to bring magic back, right? But then she has to fight all these other deities, but also the king and his soldiers and their magic, trying to erase and kill all her people. And at the same time, Inan is the prince of that kingdom that is fighting against Zeli's people. And there's a little cute love story that will bloom between them two. And at some point, Inan will have to choose, because you cannot be part of that kingdom that's trying to destroy Zeli's people and also have a relationship with Zeli's people. So it was a cute story. I love the fantastical aspects of it, the leopards, the different names of the animals and the deities, the African deities in the book, and the pace of the book, the world building. It was nice. As I said, I have a thorough review on it. It was a good book. So, by the way, Tomi Adebayo, she's Nigerian, American actually. So there she is. So all these books were either 3 stars or 4 stars, as I said. So I believe this was either 3-star or 3 something. So next, the book that I read, I found it was cute, and that's a number 8. We have Ties That Tether by Jane Igaharo, and this author, she's also Nigerian. She was born in Nigeria and actually is Canadian, like me. So anyways, so the story of Jane Igaharo, this I think I rated it 3 stars. It was a cute, fluffy romance between a Spanish, Rafael Castellano, and between Aziri. Aziri is of Nigerian descent. And what struck me with this story was simply the way her family, the family of Aziri, was overbearing. There was so much in her business. So she is living in Toronto precisely, and she is trying to find her own path by choosing her own man and choosing her own path. But then her family is set on her marrying someone from Nigeria, especially that before her dad died. That's not a spoiler, it's at the beginning of the story. She promised him that she would marry a Nigerian man. But then she falls in love with Raphael, who's this Spanish dude. And you can just imagine the way the story unfolds, with the mother being all about, no, you made a promise, you know, you have to marry Nigeria. What would happen of like the kids and your culture and all of that stuff. So you have elements such as culture. So there's this idea of cultural affirmation, but also the need to want to sustain and keep one's identity without losing themselves, right? So she's afraid that by going out with Raphael and building a life, that she may lose her Nigerian identity. At the same time, Raphael is also of Spanish descent. He also wants to preserve his culture, right? So they have to find a middle ground and navigate, you know, their families and their culture identities together, or not. All right, you guys. So again, if you haven't picked it up, as I said, it's a cute read. Next, at number 7, we have Yinka, Where Is Your Husband? I rated this, I believe, 3-star as well. Again, this is from a Nigerian author by Lizzie Damiola Blackburn. She's born and raised in London. She's a British Nigerian writer. And Yinka, Where's Your Husband is actually, again, I've already reviewed this, but it's essentially about Yinka, and she's this young Nigerian woman who's well loved. She works for the bank, I believe, and she recently broke up with her boyfriend, and now her family is sort of obsessed because she's in her early 30s, and in African culture, by then you should already be married with about 3 children. I kid you not. And Yinka is nowhere near having a man, let alone being close to marriage, right? So you have her mom, her auntie, and her 3 or 4 friends who are there rooting for her and basically meddling in her affairs in order to help her find that husband. And it is about Yinka also coming to terms that maybe the year where most of her friends are getting married and other people are getting married is not the year where she's gonna find her husband, but maybe she can befriend someone that will turn out to be a husband. But it's also coming to terms with accepting herself as a beautiful, dark-skinned African woman, because she does also grapple with those kind of issues in this book. And I love the end. As I said, I talked about it, where she actually modeled in like her bathing suit, owning her body, her femininity, her dark skin, her Africanness. I love that. So Yinka, Where Is Your Husband? If you haven't picked it up, and this was a number 7, I believe. Yeah, okay. At number 6, we have this very sad book, Someday Maybe, by Oni Inwabinelli. Again, you guys, I know Nigerians are just really strong in literature. And by the way, this is obviously not an extensive list of books written by African authors. As I said, I'm still very much discovering them, and I hope to discover more of these African authors. And if you guys have recommendation of books written by African authors, great Caribbean authors as well, but mostly African authors, I'd be very, very happy to like digest them and read them, and you know. So this book, you've got to look for triggers because it deals with suicide. So it's about, what's her name again? The main character's name is Eve. I love the cover, by the way, the afro hair. And Eve is married to Quentin. He's white. And the story at the beginning starts tragically. He takes his own life. And it is her navigating through his death and being surrounded by her Nigerian family, and her trying to grapple or grasp the reasons and trying to understand her relationship with her husband, the signs, and also just coming to terms with what cannot be explained. Like someone taking their own life, even if they leave a note, it's not something that our brain can come to terms with, right? But essentially, that's her journey, navigating her husband's death and going through the depression, losing her job, and constantly being surrounded by her Nigerian family. And I have to say that even in our culture, when there's a death in the family, whoever's going through that directly is never left alone for like a long time. Like for the first maybe week or two, you're literally 24/7 surrounded by people. So I believe this was a 3-star for me. It was really, really sad. Really, really, really sad. Very triggering. And as I think about this book, it reminds me of also what my family went through recently in October. It's simply these type of stories I don't think I can revisit. It's very triggering, but it's still a very good read. Simply mind the trigger, but the way the author writes the love story, the relationship, and the Nigerian culture, and all of those elements, the characters development, the plot, they're beautiful human stories that stay with you. So I really enjoyed the book, and I think if you haven't picked it up, you really should. Okay, so oh my gosh, we actually have a different African author at number 5, and it is this book. It's In the Belly of the Congo by Blaise Ndala. He's actually from my country. So you're probably wondering why someone who's from a country is a number 5 and not a number 1. I really thought about it, but it really depends on the way I rated the book, the way it piqued my interest, the storyline, the characters, were they memorable, the writing, all of that, So I chose this to be a number 5 because I believe it was, if not 3-star or even 4-star, I believe this because this is historical fiction. And as I said, it's by a Congolese author, and it talks about the 1960 what was it called again? Expo. 1960 Expo that happened in France. Was it Belgium? It was Belgium. And it's a Congolese princess that is taken from Kinshasa. Her name was Princess Chalanyota, daughter of King Kenakwete III. So yes, so Princess Nyota was taken from her kingdom in the Congo, Kinshasa, around the 1950s, I believe, 1940s. And she's then brought to Belgium, and she is exposed there among other Africans that was also taken from Congo to be put in almost like a cage to be exposed to the Belgian people, so that the Belgian people could actually see the exotic people of Congo. Like, this book made me cringe, and to think that it was actually a real story that occurred. Why am I shocked? But it's really hard, and I enjoyed the book. And obviously it's a book that was written in French, translated in English, and the way the author wrote the story, I love the wording, the prose. It was very, I'm not gonna say poetic, but it's a book that's focused on a lot of words to describe a story, even though there is a plot, there is a climax at some point, and as well was very, it was really sad because I thought they would find Nyota. We actually also learn about her niece. I believe it's her niece, right? Yes. The princess niece leaves Congo for Belgium to continue her education at the university. Before she departs, her father charges her with the task of discovering the fate of her missing aunt. Yes. So that's what happens, and she gets in Brussels. I was like, Nyota. So she actually has her aunt's name as well. That's what happens in our African culture. I think other cultures as well, where you actually are given, your aunt's name, your grandparents' name, and yeah. So both women are named Nyota. So you have the Princess Nyota and her niece, and it's their story, and she is charged to actually find out what happened to the queen. And it's such a very, very sad story what happened to her. But I already spoke about this book. As I said, if you haven't picked it up, please pick it up. Okay, support Congolese author. And then at number 4 we have His Only Wife by Peace Adzo Medi. Oh my gosh, this book was fantastic. I enjoyed this book. I think it was like a 4-star for me. This book was wild. And it's the story of Afi. So basically, it's a story of a small town romance gone to like big city romance, but with a twist, right? So it's the story of Afi, and Afi is growing up in Ghana. So this is actually by a Ghanaian author. So yeah, see, Nigerian, Congolese, and Ghanaian. And she's growing up in a small town in Ghana, and she'd love to be a seamstress, right? But what happens is that her family is not well off because the dad passed away, and unfortunately, they didn't have the means to take care of themselves, so they had to stay with other family members until comes this person that they call auntie. She's very rich, and she has this son he's actually married to someone else, but then this auntie asks Afi's mom to have Afi marry this son. And the funny thing is, when the marriage actually occurs and Afi accepts, he doesn't even show up at his wedding. So she's married to this man who doesn't even show up at his wedding. She's been moved to this big house in the big city, Accra. She gets to live in Accra in this beautiful condo, and I think she goes like almost 2-3 weeks without seeing him until he comes. Now, as I said, I already talked about this book, and the twist of this story was so compelling. I didn't see it coming. Like, I feel like everyone I spoke to saw it coming, but I didn't see the signs. I was really convinced that once she started that love relationship with her man, I think it was Elijah, what's his name? Eli Elikim, that he was gonna be convinced that it's her, they were gonna start a relationship and all that. And they do start a relationship. There's a son that is born of that relationship. But the thing about him, as I mentioned, is that he's already in a relationship and he has a kid. And she did know going into that relationship, but what she was told was that she's supposed to marry him so he can actually divorce the other woman and be with her, because she's like the chosen wife. She's the perfect wife, But ooh, this story, the way it unfolds, you guys, if you haven't read it, but I highly suggest that you pick it up. I really loved it. Can you tell? Okay. At number 3, 2 more books, guys. At number 3, we have The Selfless Act of Breathing by J.J. Bola. And this is also by a Congolese author. Yay for Congo! Yay! Yay! Can you see my bracelet? For Congo. So this book, I actually read it in October. And as I said, this one was so triggering on many levels. It's essentially the story of this guy, Michael Kabongo. And Michael Kabongo is a teacher who lives in London, UK, but somewhere in the British area there. And he's fed up with life. And it's basically us learning the reasons why he's fed up with life. And it was so striking because at every turn you felt that he could have reached to people. He had his mom, and his dad is not in the picture anymore. You also learn about why and the reasons why. And he's teaching all these kids, but he's so short on patience. He's just so melancholic. That's the word that kept popping about this book. He's so melancholic, and he's just falling into this, what's the word I'm looking for, this dark tunnel, and he's just not able to come out of it. And he's obviously, at the beginning of the story, he's saying that he's gonna kill himself. He takes his money and he goes in the United States with, I think, about 9,000, and he spends that by meeting different people, different women, and each time that he spends his money, he tells you how much money is left. And when that money is finally spent, he's gonna take his own life. And the end was, I don't want to spoil for you, but it was something else. So that book, I rated it, I believe, a 4-star. Forget the sad part of it, is the writing for me. The writing was beautiful, and it was such raw emotions in me, and just talking about it, oh, woo. So, anyways, at number 3, as I said, if you haven't read it, be mindful of the triggers. But apart from that, support this Congolese author by picking up his book, and you will not be disappointed. If you want to cry, really, really cry, this will get you there. Finally, these two, it was a fight. Either one of them could be number 1. Either one of them. Okay. But at number 2, I decided to bring you The Girl with the Louding Voice. Oh my god. I even have a review. I did a little skit with this one. And I listened to it, and I highly recommend listening to The Girl with the Louding Voice. It's by Abidari. And I think it's a wrap. She actually mentioned a new book coming by this author, and I look forward to picking up that book. But it's essentially the story of Adoni. Adoni is this young Nigerian girl. The way the story starts, I think she's 13 or 14. And unfortunately, her mom passes away because she was sick. And her dad is forced to marry her to this older Nigerian man, because obviously he can't pay for food and the house, and the money that will come from that marriage will serve. So they basically sacrifice Adoni for the best of him and the 2 brothers. And she has 2 brothers, an older brother and a younger brother. As I said, I have an extensive review on this one, but it's her story of perseverance, of going through obstacles and challenges, and coming on top of it triumphant. You know what I mean? Like, you felt her pain, you felt her drive throughout the book, because she just wanted to, she wanted to go to school. That was essentially her goal. But then before she gets to actually accomplish that goal, she will be brought or sold into this big madame's mansion. And this big madame is so mean, so mean. And the way she's described, I could just see her like probably dressed with something like this, lots of makeup, pretty ugly, putting all that choco, that's in my language for like those brightening products, and being so mean to Adoni. And Adoni was doing everything in that mansion. She was like essentially being a slave. Like, she was washing the bathroom, she was not cooking, but like she just was in charge of cleaning, a bit of gardening, and sometimes going to the grocery store. But there comes this beautiful lady who studied abroad, and she is her salvation. She's gonna be there. She's gonna teach Adoni to read, to write by bringing her books. She also brings her cell phone, so that whenever things happens, because some weird shit were about to happen to Adoni. And like I said, I love this book. I really did. I love this book. So guys, if you haven't picked it up, please pick it up. Listen to it. You will not be disappointed. Alrighty guys, so forgive me, but Stay With Me had to be part of this list of African authors.
To avoid starting the countdown again, I decided to have 2 books as number 1.
This is at number 1. This is it. But I want to talk about this one and Stay With Me by her as well. I'm sorry, those 2 books, they're by her. I didn't have the physical book. But this story, as the title says, Stay With Me, I also have a review of this, really stayed with me. It is the story of Yejide and Akin. Again, this is in Nigeria, and it is by Ayobami Adebayo. And this story is about this couple. Very young, they met when they were young, and they fell in love, and they have an understanding of like no polygamy between them, right? But then a few years into their marriage, they're still not able to conceive a child. So Akin's family decide that, they have to meddle in their business and impose this young wife who apparently is fertile and is gonna give her a child. At the same time, Yejide cannot do anything about it. The only thing she tries to do is to try all these fertility things being thrown at her, not only by her mother-in-law, and these doctors, and she thinking that she is the problem, right? Oh my god, you guys, the twist in this story had me like, had my mouth hanging all the way to the floor. I was like, no. Because at some point in the story, Ejide's brother gets involved, and I'm just saying, like, this story had me baffled, and it had me thinking of what I would do if I'm in that situation. You have to read this book, okay? You have to read this book. And for those who read, you know what I'm talking about, because the man, her husband, Ejide, I could kill him for many, many reasons in this book. So, and finally, guys, it is A Spell of Good Things by Ayobami Adebayo. A Spell of Good Things, guys. This book literally stayed with me. I do have a review of it, okay? So if you want more details about this book. But so, as I said, this story is a story of Inyola and Wurawula. And they're two different families, huh? Inyola is actually the boy. I think he's like 12 years old or 14. But he's very young. And he's living in a poverty-stricken family. His dad is not able to find work. His mom is barely getting by. But the way the author just wrote the story, as a parent, I was absolutely besides myself, just trying to conceive the things that will push a parent to go above and beyond and under and beside, just so they could put food on the table for the kids, and just so they could pay for schooling for their kids. That's the family of Inyola. On the other side, you have Uraula, who's obviously in a wealthy family. She's starting to be a nurse, and she's in this relationship with this man. And at first sight, it looks like it's a beautiful relationship. They're in love and all of that stuff. But as soon as you dive in that relationship, you discover that she's in an abusive relationship. And not only that, there's also a bit of political issues around there. And at that point, the family of Raula is actually involved with this other family, this other man who's intent on taking over politically, and he wants people to vote for him. But what happens, and I think that's the end, is that something so I wish didn't happen. And I don't want to tell you the end, but like I said, you guys, I have a review on it by this book. It was a beautiful fictional story because it arose all these emotions out of me. Like, I cried, I was so sad, and I was mortified at some point when the mom made her daughter, her kids, go in the street and beg. Oh my god, oh, so that they could have a little bit of money. And that money, you guys, they used it to pay for the school fees for one kid, when it was Inyola who almost amassed that money by begging. Oh no, this story had many twists and turns, and I was like, oh, how'd you do this? She was so fantastic. Y'all, if you haven't read this book, please read it. I think I read it like 4.75, okay? It could have been a 5. I just don't do 5-star, but just think it could have been amongst the highest rating for that. That's my top 10 book, but I would like to rectify this simply because Stay With Me is by the same author, Ayobami Adebayo, and should have been part of this African books that stay with me, because Stay With Me literally stay with me. So we're gonna say 11 books, my top 11 books. We're gonna recapitulate, and then we're gonna start from number 1 to number 11. So at number 1, it is A Spell of Good Things by Ayobami Adebayo. Please applaud. Oh my god. At number 2, we have Stay With Me by the same author, Ayobami Adebayo. At number 3, we have The Girl with the Louding Voice. At number 4, we have The Selfless Act of Breathing. At number 5, we have His Only Wife. At number 6, we have In the Belly of the Congo. At number 7, we have Someday Maybe by Oni Nwabineli. At number 8, we have Yinka, Where Is Your Husband? At number 9, we have Ties That Tether by Jane Igaharo. At number 10, we have Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. And at number 11, Born a Crime. There you have it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this. I will do actually another video of my top 15 of the year, and that will be all my 4 stars. You know, you're gonna have authors such as Kennedy Ryan, you're gonna have Ta-Nehisi Coates, all those great authors that I discovered. It's gonna be like my top 15 of the year. These were just for the African authors. All right, you guys, I hope you like this video. Please don't forget to like, to comment, subscribe, and share. And I will see you in my next video. Ciao.